Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Retro Chat Podcast. My name is Andy Evans. We are live right here in Weymouth, in Dorset. How you doing? How is everyone? We had a week off last week. First show back, and it's going to be the first of a doubleheader because later this week, we'll be back with the top 10 matches of WrestleMania history because it is WrestleMania week. And on that show, we will also be giving you our predictions for what is going to happen this Saturday and Sunday in Dallas at WrestleMania 38. So, how are you? Easy for me to say. How is everyone tonight or this morning or the afternoon, wherever you're listening to this? Welcome to the show. Welcome to YouTube. Welcome to the podcast. Hope you are well. Coming up on the show this week, we are going to be looking at one of the greatest WrestleManias of all time. We're going to be going back 28 years to WrestleMania 10, which of course was headlined by the iconic ladder match between the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, and the late Scott Hall, the bad guy, Razor Ramon. So let's do it. Let's crack on, shall we? So WrestleMania 10 took place on March the 20th of 1994. It, of course, took place from New York City in Madison Square Garden, the same venue where WrestleMania 1 took place. It had an attendance of 18,065 with a buy rate of 420,000, and it was 10 years in the making. The central focus of the pay-per-view was for the WWF Championship, which was defended in not one, but two matches, featuring both Made in the USA Lex Luger and the Hitman Bret Hart, after they were named the co-winners of the 1994 Royal Rumble. We'll talk about that in just a second. There were also several other feuds being culminated at WrestleMania, including that feud between Razor and Shawn in a ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship, Bam Bam Bigelow against Doink the Clown, and the Macho Man Randy Savage facing off against Crush. And WrestleMania 10 was the first edition of the event to actually not feature the immortal Hulk Hogan, who had been seen as the public face of the World Wrestling Federation. Following his 1993 departure, that role shifted to the Hitman Bret Hart. And interestingly, and I didn't realize this at the time, the card also marked Randy Savage's last televised match for the WWF. Of course, he would stay with the company until the summer. His last appearance was at SummerSlam 1994. But there were various storylines happening around this time within the World Wrestling Federation. And let's take a look at the storyline for the WWF Championship. And it began, as we said, at the 1994 Royal Rumble in January of that year, when, for the first time ever, two winners were announced. And they were Lex Luger and Bret the Hitman Hart, who simultaneously eliminated each other. In fact, if you remember the video, there was the 4 or 5 different shots where they both went over and both sets of feet hit the floor. Although I still say, if you watch it, Bret's feet touched before Lex Luger. And I've said that since 1994. After a disagreement between the referees, Jack Tunney, then WWF president, declared Luger and Hart co-winners. Tunney announced that both wrestlers would get a championship match at WrestleMania, which was, following the previous year, the prize that was given to the winner of the Royal Rumble match. But both wrestlers would have to compete in 2 matches on the pay-per-view. So how would you decide it? Well, Jack Tunney, in his infinite wisdom, used a coin toss. That's right. He flipped a coin to find out who would face Yokozuna for the championship first. If Luger won, he would face Yoko. Hart would then wrestle his brother Owen before facing the winner of Luger Yokozuna in the main event. If Hart won the coin toss, he would get the first title shot, and Luger would wrestle Crush earlier on the card. Now, that coin flip took place on January the 31st, 1994's edition of Monday Night Raw. Luger won, and of course then got the right to face Yokozuna. So Bret was booked to face Owen. his brother, with whom he was actually in the middle of an ongoing feud. And, thank God the coin toss, if you want to believe it's real, the coin toss happened the way it did because we got one of the best matches to kick off any WrestleMania, or in fact, one of the best matches of all time in terms of Bret the Hitman Hart versus Owen. But this storyline began at the Survivor Series of 1993 when the Hart brothers were competing in a single elimination Survivor Series match. As Owen was fighting in the ring, Bret sustained a kayfabe injury. There's a running theme. He was staggering along the ring apron. Owen ran into Bret. He went into the guardrail. That caused Owen to lose focus, and he got eliminated. In fact, he was the only member of the Hart family to be eliminated in that match. At the end of the match, Owen returned to the ring and had a confrontation with Bret. Quite a heated Hart brother confrontation. In the following weeks, Owen demanded a match from the Hitman, but Bret refused to accept the challenge. Eventually, though, the story took another interesting turn because they reunited and were on the same page, and funnily enough, got a championship shot against the Quebecers at the 1994 Royal Rumble. During that match, guess what? The Hitman sustained another kayfabe injury, causing the referee to end the match. In a planned turn, Owen got upset and attacked Bret to restart the feud, and one of the greatest promos from Owen Hart ever, in which I kicked Bret's bad kick leg, or along those lines. Check it out on YouTube. Now, Lex Luger's feud with Yokozuna began on July 4th of 1993 at the Body Slam Challenge because Mr. Fuji, Yokozuna's manager, challenged all American athletes to attempt to body slam Yoko on the deck of the USS Intrepid. Now, after several athletes, not just professional wrestlers, but professional footballers, basketball players, baseball players, failed to do that, the storyline saw Luger, now going by Made in the USA, arrive by helicopter and successfully body slam Yokozuna in a scene nothing unbeknown or unlike what happened in 1987 at WrestleMania 3 when Hulk Hogan body slammed the 700-pound, in Hogan's words, Andre the Giant. Now, this began a push for Luger. In fact, it was his biggest main event push he had in the company. He was then scheduled, to face Yokozuna for the WWF Championship at SummerSlam. He won the match by countout, but didn't win the strap. Now, this is where it gets interesting because the WWF claimed that the match stipulations were that Luger wasn't allowed a rematch. The storyline saw Luger campaigning for entry into the Royal Rumble, as the winner would be granted a title shot. He eventually entered the match, although the Great Kabuki and Genshiro Tenryu also entered on Mr. Fuji's behalf with the aim to prevent Luger from winning, and of course, they were unsuccessful. The storyline leading to the match between the Macho Man Randy Savage and Crush focused on the strained friendship between the two performers. On the July 12th, 1993 episode of Monday Night Raw, Crush challenged Yoko for the championship. At the end of the match, Yoko performed a banzai drop to win, but then subsequently performed 3 more banzais while various wrestlers ran to the ring to stop the attack. And this was nothing unknown to Yoko. He'd been doing it all year. In fact, he'd done it to Hacksaw in January. Eventually, the Macho Man came to the ring to help Crush. Now, following this match, Crush was not seen on TV for several months, although he did continue to appear at house shows. He would reappear, though, on Monday Night Raw on October the 18th of 1993, accompanied by Yokozuna and Mr. Fuji. Crush criticized Savage for not intervening sooner, and in a promo announced that he had turned against Savage and the United States in order to align himself with Yokozuna and Fuji. He then attacked Savage, dropping him on a ringside guardrail. Yoko performed the banzai before a group of referees came to the ring to break up the fight. During the November 8th, 1993 episode of Raw, Savage left his position as a commentator and attacked crush, and there would be consequences because the following week, Jack Tunney announced that Savage was now suspended from commentating as a result of that attack. The feud then moved to the Survivor Series, and it intensified once again when Savage and Crush both caused each other to be eliminated from their respective matches. Bam Bam Bigelow and Doink the Clown were engaged in a feud that began in the fall of 1993. Doink annoyed Bigelow with a series of pranks, such as throwing water and confetti and tripping him with a broom. Bigelow retaliated against Doink and his midget sidekick Dink. A match was booked for the Survivor Series of 1993. You can tell Survivor Series was really struggling as an event. We might need to cover it. But ultimately, Bigelow was unable to gain revenge because Doink actually didn't compete. Instead, the WWF prolonged the feud, thank you, by having Bigelow's team face the Bushwhackers and Men on a Mission dressed as Doinks. This feud eventually culminated at WrestleMania in a match with Bigelow and his main squeeze, Luna Vachon, competing against Doink and Dink in a mixed tag team match. So that left us with another storyline match. And this was the feud between the bad guy, Razor Ramon, and Shawn Michaels, which also dated back to the fall of 1993. Jack Tunney announced that he was stripping Michaels of the Intercontinental Championship for not defending the title often enough. Since this point, there have been reports that the real reason for vacating the title was because Michaels refused to drop the belt. Razor won the championship after competing in a battle royal and defeating Rick Martel in a singles match. In the angle, Michaels refused to acknowledge the title change and insisted that he was the true and real Intercontinental Champion. To gain revenge against Ramon for taking the belt, Michaels attacked Razor and helped IRS to steal Ramon's gold chains in a move that I'm sure Glenn from GX Accounts would be proud of. So that brings us to March the 20th, 1994 at Madison Square Garden. Vince McMahon and Jerry Lawler were on commentary duties. Todd Pettingill was conducting the interviews, and it was Bill Dunn and Howard Finkel as your ring announcers for the event. Of course, aided by Donnie Wahlberg in the Luger Yokozuna match and the late, great, iconic Burt Reynolds ring announcing for the Hitman and Yokozuna match. Your referees for the evening were Mike Chioda, Danny Davis, Jack Doan, Earl Hebner, and the late, great Joey Morella. Now, the majority of people believe that the first match at WrestleMania 10 was actually the iconic match between Bret and Owen, but there was a dark match. And this was a tag team action where the Heavenly Bodies faced off against the Bushwhackers. Near the end of the match, the Bushwhackers gained control when they performed the battering ram on Jimmy Del Rey. His tag team partner, Tom Pritchard, then attacked Butch the Bushwhacker before he was able to do the pin. And this allowed Del Rey to recover and pin Butch to win the match. The music started playing, Vince McMahon and Lawler were introduced, and Little Richard sang America the Beautiful. But then we did kick off the pay-per-view with the opening classic, which goes down today as one of the greatest matches of all time, not just in WrestleMania history, but in WWE history. And it was the first televised match between the Hitman and the Rocket. And what's really interesting about this match is if you watch it closely, they introduce Owen first, and he has his music with Bill Dunn from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. The crowd go absolutely nuts because they think it's the Hitman with new music. Yeah, it wasn't. It was, of course, Owen Hart coming to the ring, then followed by Bret Hart. And the beginning of the match went back and forth with neither wrestler gaining a strong advantage. The tension between the two was demonstrated by Owen's bragging and Bret's refusal to let Owen leave the ring. Owen Hart eventually gained momentum by using a camel clutch on Bret and performing suplexes and a tombstone piledriver. When Owen stood outside the ring to recuperate, Bret jumped over the top rope and attacked him, but he landed awkwardly and suffered a kayfabe injury. That's 3 now, to his knee. Owen used the figure 4 leg lock to capitalize on Bret's sore leg. He was able to recover. He kicked Owen in the back of the head and used a bulldog and sleeper hold to weaken Owen Hart. Owen regained the advantage, however, and applied the sharpshooter on Bret. Bret was able to escape and perform a sharpshooter on Owen. He then attempted to end the match with a victory roll. Owen blocked it and pinned Bret to win the match. And a lot of workers now call that an Owen. In fact, I was talking to the brothers all a few months ago now, who said that they often try and put that into their arsenal. Next up was the mixed tag team match between Bam Bam Bigelow and his main squeeze, Luna Vachon. They came to the ring to face Doink the Clown and Dink. Bigelow attacked Doink at the beginning with a dropkick and a power slam. When Dink entered the match, the rule stated that Bigelow had to tag Vachon in. Dink ran around the ring avoiding Vachon, but she eventually caught him. She then kicked him and power slammed him, but missed a moonsault attempt. Doink and Bigelow re-entered the match. Doink performed a lovely DDT on Bigelow, who then reversed momentum to win the match after a diving headbutt on Dink. Bigelow pinned Doink to win the match, and he and Vachon then viciously attacked Dink, who was an experienced professional wrestler in his own right. The next match on the card was Falls Count Anywhere between the Macho Man Randy Savage and Crush. Now, the rules for this Falls Count were slightly different because the rules stated that anytime a wrestler was pinned, he then had to make it back into the ring within 60 seconds or he would lose the match. Savage tried to attack Crush before the bell, but Crush reversed the attack. Using a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker to injure Savage, he then dropped Savage across the guardrail to get the first pinfall. While Savage was returning to the ring, Fuji hit him with a Japanese flag to stall him. He made it back with just 2 seconds remaining, so the match continued. Inside the ring, Crush tried to throw salt into Savage's eyes, but he countered by throwing the salt in Crush. Savage then performed a diving elbow drop and rolled Crush out of the ring for the pinfall. Fuji helped to revive Crush, and he has made his return to the ring before the count had expired. Savage and Crush then brawled down the aisle and into a room backstage when Savage scored a pinfall and tied Crush's legs to a pulley, who was left hanging with nowhere to go and could not return to the ring. So the Macho Man was declared the winner. Alundra Blaze defended her WWF Women's Championship against Leilani Kai. Blaze began by using a leg sweep and 2 sunset flips. Kai came back with a power slam and a suplex, but in the end, it was Alundra pinning Kai after performing a German suplex. The tag team titles were up for grabs next as Mo and Mabel, men on a mission, accompanied by Oscar, challenged the Quebecers, of one of which is PCO, for the World Wrestling Federation tag team titles. Now, although the Quebecers attacked men on a mission before the bell, Mabel quickly recovered and clotheslined both Shock and Pierre. The Quebecers used several double team moves against their opponents, but Mabel reversed the momentum after Pierre missed a senton bomb. Mabel eventually missed an avalanche, allowing the Quebecers to suplex. They then performed an assisted senton on Mabel, but did not get a pinfall. Men on a mission regained the advantage, prompting Johnny Polo, or Raven, to pull his wrestlers out of the ring. MOM won the match by countout, but because it was a countout, did not win the championship belt. The first of our double main event came up next as Lex Luger was challenging Yokozuna, and Mr. Perfect was revealed to be the guest referee for the match. Donnie Wahlberg was introduced as the guest ring announcer, and Rhonda Shear from Up All Night on the USA Network was the guest timekeeper. There was a verbal confrontation, as always, between Luger and Yoko. Luger gained the early advantage by knocking Yokozuna out of the ring. After getting back into the ring, Yoko removed the turnbuckle padding from the ring, and then used a nerve hold and a belly-to-belly to wear down Luger. As he tried to throw Luger's head into the exposed turnbuckle, however, Luger blocked him and hit Yoko's head into the buckle instead. Luger then performed clotheslines and a power slam before knocking Yokozuna unconscious, kayfabe again, with a running forearm smash. Mr. Fuji and Jim Cornette jumped onto the ring apron to distract Luger, and Luger pulled them in and then attacked them. Luger covered Yokozuna, but Mr. Perfect was tending to the fallen managers and didn't make the count. When Luger pushed him, Perfect disqualified him, left the ring, and turned heel. In a cool-down match, Adam Bomb and his manager Harvey Whippleman entered the ring for the next match. Whippleman criticized Howard Finkel's new hair and tore the pocket off of his tuxedo. Earthquake John Tenta came to the ring, attacked Adam Bomb from behind, power slammed, and performed the Earthquake Splash to get the pin in 35 seconds. The next match, the second of our main events, for the ladder match, it was the Intercontinental title bouts belonging to both Razor and Shawn were both hanging above the ring. The first performer to use the ladder to reach both belts would be declared the winner. Ramon began the match by chokeslamming Michaels, who then recovered and performed a neck breaker. Michaels then threw Ramon out to the ringside area, where Big Daddy Cool Diesel clotheslined Ramon. Earl Hebner responded by ordering Diesel to return to the dressing room, making it an even playing field. Ramon pulled up the padding from the concrete floor, but was later thrown onto it after Michaels reversed the Razor's edge. While Ramon was lying on the floor, Michaels brought the ladder to the ring and used it to hit Ramon in the stomach, the chest, and the back. Michaels tried to retrieve the belt, but Ramon stopped him from climbing the ladder. He then set the ladder up in the corner and performed a flying splash onto the bad guy, Razor Ramon. It's one of the most iconic pictures you can ever see in WrestleMania. It's all over the net. Ramon recovered and Irish whipped HBK into the ladder. He then hit Michaels with the ladder several times before both men tried to climb up to get the belts. Ramon superplexed Michaels off the ladder and tried to reach the belts, but Michaels drop-kicked him, which caused Ramon to fall off. Michaels performed sweet chin music and a pile driver on Razor, and then propped the ladder up in the corner of the ring. He climbed the turnbuckles, jumped onto the ladder, and used his weight to push it down across Razor's chest. Michaels once again tried to retrieve the belt, but Razor pushed him off. Michaels fell into the ropes, got tangled up, which allowed Razor Ramon to get the belt and win to become the undisputed World Wrestling Federation Intercontinental Champion. Now, a 10-man tag match was supposed to take place next, but was cancelled due to time constraints. The kayfabe reason given at the time was that the heel team, which consisted of IRS, the Head Shrinkers, the model Rick Martel, and Double J Jeff Jarrett, couldn't agree on who would be the team's captain. Their opponents were scheduled to be the team of the 1-2-3 Kid, Thurman Sparky Plug, the Native American Tatanka, and the Smoking Guns. Bob Holly stated in his 2013 biography, The Hardcore Truth, that the timekeeper backstage was reportedly telling the referee over his earpiece to end the ladder match, but both Michaels and Scott Hall ignored him and kept wrestling until officials were forced to cancel the match. The main event of the night was the final match for the WWF Championship, pitting the reigning champion Yokozuna against the Hitman Bret Hart, who was still coming off that loss to Owen in the opening match. The guest referee was the rowdy Roddy Piper, whilst Burt Reynolds was the ring announcer and Jenny Garth from Beverly Hills 90210 was the guest timekeeper. Yokozuna attacked Hart before the bell. Hart attempted a couple of comebacks, but eventually Yokozuna made a mistake, and that allowed the Hitman to knock him to the mat. Jim Cornette tried to distract Piper, but Piper punched him and knocked him off the ring apron. You can't write this. Yoko performed a leg drop on Hart, but then missed an avalanche attempt. Bret maintained the advantage for a little while, but Yoko came back with a belly-to-belly suplex. When Yokozuna attempted the buy, however, he lost balance, fell to the mat, and Hart quickly pinned Yokozuna to win the World Championship. This marked the first time in the WWF that two wrestlers faced each other in a world title match at two consecutive WrestleManias, and a role reversal, because in 1993 at WrestleMania 9, Yoko defeated the Hitman Bret Hart. In 1994, the Hit defeated Yokozuna. Afterwards, the Hitman celebrated in the ring with several face wrestlers, including his co-winner, Lex Luger, Rowdy Roddy Piper, the Bad Guy, Tatanka, 1-2-3 Kid, and the Macho Man, Randy Savage. Others who joined in the celebrations were the celebrities, WWF commentators Gorilla Monsoon and Vince McMahon. Owen Hart stood in the aisle glaring at Bret and then quickly left. The brothers would continue their feud for the remainder of 1994 with the championship belt often on the line. Now, WrestleMania received positive reviews from various websites and publications. In 2010, the Rob McNew of 411 Mania gave the event an overall score of 9 out of 10 and noted that even though WrestleMania 10 may lack a lot of significant historical significance due to being a relatively downtime for the business, the show kicked all kinds of ass. He further noted that Bret, Owen, and Razor Shawn were coin flip choices for not only match of the year, but match of the decade. And he concluded his review saying that WrestleMania 10 was easily one of the top 5 WrestleManias ever. It was one of the few matches in North America to receive a 5-star rating from Dave Meltzer, and also to be voted Match of the Year 1994 by readers of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. That, of course, was Michaels and Razor Ramon. Pro Wrestling Illustrated readers also named the match the PWI 1994 Match of the Year. It was placed number 3 on Iron's top 20 matches in history and described as one of the most groundbreaking matches in WrestleMania history. The opening match between Bret and Owen also garnered acclaim. McNew, again from 411 Mania, described it as the best opening match in professional wrestling history. It was number 4 on IGN's top 20 matches in WrestleMania, with the writer John Robinson describing it as the best opening match in pay-per-view history. Chris Jericho has also said that for him, the best match on WrestleMania 10 was always Bret versus Owen, and it kicked off and it was hard to follow. But where is those two matches going to place, or are they going to place, on the top 10 matches of WrestleMania coming up later this week, right here on the Retro Chat? We will have to find out. But it's what happened after WrestleMania that we're going to touch on now, because Men on a Mission continued to challenge the Quebecers for the tag team belts. Men on a Mission won the titles on March the 29th, 1994. It was said to have been an unplanned title change as Mabel accidentally fell on Pierre to get the pinfall. The title reign lasted just 2 days as the Quebecers won the titles back in a rematch. Lex Luger and Mr. Perfect were scheduled to face each other in a series of matches on the WrestleMania Revenge Tour, but Perfect was replaced by Crush and did not appear again in the WWF until the 1995 Survivor Series. Adam Bomb and Earthquake had a rematch on the April 4th edition of Monday Night Raw, again, which Earthquake won, but the feud, thank God, did not progress any further as John Tenta left the WWF, the WCW, in May 1994. Whippleman and Finkel wrestled in a series of tuxedo matches in 1994 that culminated in a match on the January 9th, 1995 edition of Monday Night Raw. Finkel defeated Whippleman in a final tuxedo match to finally end the feud. A few weeks after the match between the Heartbreak Kid and the Bad Guy, Diesel began to challenge Razor for the Intercontinental Championship. Michaels helped Diesel defeat Ramon for the strap on April the 13th, and this win began a push for Diesel that saw him win the Triple Crown Championship in 1 calendar year, culminating at the Survivor Series when he defeated Bob Backlund, or the day after the Survivor Series, where he defeated Bob Backlund for the championship. The 10-man tag place that should have taken place at WrestleMania actually did take place on April the 4th, easy for me to say, 1994 edition of Monday Night Raw. And it was the heel team that went over as IRS pinned the 1-2-3 Kid to win the match. Bret and Owen continued their feud throughout the whole of 1994. At the King of the Ring, their real-life brother-in-law and Bret's former tag team partner, the late Jim the Anvil Neidhart, became involved in the angle by helping Owen become the King of the Ring. During the coronation ceremony, Owen announced that he wanted to be referred from this point on as the King of Hearts. At SummerSlam 1994, Bret defended the title against Owen in a steel cage match, but was attacked after by Owen and Neidhart, prompting another brother-in-law, again the late great British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith, to get involved on Bret's side. At the Survivor Series, the storyline saw Owen partially responsible for costing Bret the championship, as Bret faced Bob Backlund in a match with the stipulation that the winner would be declared when a competitor's cornerman threw a towel into the ring to signify a submission. After Owen caused Smith to knock himself unconscious, Owen pretended to feel sympathy for Bret. While Backlund had Bret in a cross-faced chicken wing, the angle had Owen convince his mother Helen to throw in the towel, enabling Backlund to win the match and the strap. After the match, Owen celebrated with Backlund and showed that he was faking the concern for his brother. There you have it, 10 matches on the card. The runtime was around 2 hours, 43 minutes. Quickly running through that, the dark match wasn't recorded, but as we know, the Heavenly Bodies defeated the Bushwhackers. Owen Hart defeated Bret Hart in 20 minutes and 21 seconds. Bam Bam and Luna defeated Doink and Dink in 6 minutes 9. Randy defeated Crush in a Falls Count Anywhere in 9 minutes 49 seconds. Alundra Blaze defeated Leilani Kai for the Women's Championship in 3 minutes 20. Men on a Mission defeated the Beckers in 7 minutes 41. Yoko and Lex Luger went 14 minutes 40. Earthquake defeated Adam Bomb in 35 seconds. Razor and Shawn went for 18 minutes 47 seconds. And finally, the Hitman Bret Hart defeated Yokozuna in 10 minutes and 38. So where do you think WrestleMania stands in the history of WrestleMania? As of course, we are now on the closing miles of WrestleMania season. Does it stand up there? Let me know, because I want to hear from you as always, and you can do that by contacting us on social media. And to do that, all you need to do, if I can get the thing to work, is follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitch at Retro Chat Podcast. And you can tweet us and join in the conversation using the hashtag #BackInTime at Retro Chat Pod. If you are listening to this on the audio feed and you want to come to YouTube, we're very active on there with loads of retro plays, WWE 2K matches, audio, video content, different specials from the vaults, Vinto's Vault. Then come and do it on YouTube. All you need to do is search for Retro Chat Podcast UK. So next time, later this week, a bonus episode of the Retro Chat Podcast, where we will be detailing what we think will be the top 10 matches in WrestleMania history. Plus, we will be looking at both nights 1 and 2 and giving our predictions of who we think and what we think will happen at WrestleMania. Will Cody Rhodes make his return to the WWF, or will Shane McMahon be the mystery opponent for Seth Rollins? We'll talk all about it later this week. Until then, my name is Andy Evans. Thank you for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure, as always. We will see you very soon. But until then, before then, let's talk to Lee and Lawrence about the MOS Network.
Join the MOS Network,
the home of the Ministry of Slam Pro Wrestling show every Sunday at 7 p.m. UK time. We bring you all the latest wrestling news, fun segments, and of course we bring you classic wrestling interviews from the last 20 years.
The only people that really have taken shots at us are the people that are really avid WWE fans.
We are also the home of the Retro Chat Podcast. Go back in time with Andy Evans every single Wednesday at 7 p.m. UK.
And don't forget the Ministry of Horror show with Tez every single Tuesday, where he looks back, brings in special guests, and looks at the history of horror.
The MOS Network is an awesome community for wrestling fans, pop culture fans, and people who like positive energy all around the world.
Come and make friends with the like-minded fans 24/7 in our exclusive Discord community.
Gaming and music streams. Come on.
Yeah, we won! Yeah!
And for you audio listeners, we also have the Ministry of Slam on the podcast feeds.
Check it out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere you check out your audio podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, wrestling wins with the MOS Network.
That's it for me. I will see you next week. In fact, I will see you later this week for the top 10 matches in WrestleMania history. But until then, stay tuned. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye for now.